Megyn Kelly joins us. Megyn, great to see you. And I haven't stopped smiling for the last 2.5 weeks, and I don't plan to stop anytime soon. Megyn, great to see you. I want to dive into this story with Nancy Mace. What is a woman? It seems to be the ultimate question that the Democrats can't answer. Megyn, welcome to the program and walk us through what's happening on Capitol Hill.
Oh, it's great to be here. It's great to see you. And I feel the same. I felt elated since he won, and the things just keep getting better. You know, watching Joe and Mika slither into Mar-a-Lago, like begging to be relevant again. Please don't hold it against us. So we called you a racist and a rapist and a fascist. We really just want to be in the center. All of this is so delicious. It's like, we just keep winning. So it's awesome. But what's happening with Nancy Mace is, it's kind of interesting, Charlie, because you realize not everybody's been paying attention to all this gender insanity. And Nancy Mace is conservative. She's from South Carolina. But I guess this hasn't been, in her face for a while. And now it's come, right to Capitol Hill. And she's having to deal with the issues that you and I talk about all the time. So they elected out of Delaware a man who poses as a woman to the U.S. Congress. And Tim is his so-called dead name. And now he's going by, I don't remember the new fake names, is Susanna McBride, whatever. So now he wants us to believe he's a woman, and he's going to Capitol Hill. And there's a question of which bathroom this man is going to use. And Nancy Mace said, well, he shouldn't be in my bathroom. He shouldn't be in the women's bathroom. And actually, there should be a rule set out by the speaker saying everybody should use the bathroom that corresponds with their biological sex. And then this person, McBride, and everyone on the left started melting down, calling her a bully, saying how nasty she is. AOC was saying we're going to have genital inspections now before someone uses the restroom. This is so absurd and like such a trope. And they're trying to say that this is bigoted as opposed to a matter of women's rights. And Nancy Mace is sort of coming to life on this and getting her facts and learning all the things that we've been talking about, which is like the vast majority of so-called trans people who are male to female are in fact autogynephiles, meaning they have a sexual fetish. They get sexually aroused from dressing as women. And so there's a pretty decent chance that man in a dress in the stall next to you is turned on by the fact that he's wearing that dress and he's next to you while you're doing your business, minding your own business in a stall. I mean, hard no. But this is a fact. I mean, this has been researched. Over 90%, they say, by at least some experts, are autogynephiles in this trans community. So we really do need to have our defenses up. It's not to say all of them are, but mental disorders include gender dysphoria. I mean, it's one of them. It's in the DSM-5. It's a mental disorder. So why would we be celebrating this? Why would we be opening the door for this to walk into our women's rooms where we're most vulnerable? And long story short, Nancy Mace has already won this fight because Speaker Johnson already issued a rule saying all over Capitol Hill, we're not having men in women's bathrooms, period.
This should not be controversial. Non-binary activist Evan Greer just interrupted and harassed Nancy Mace on a stage. I mean, you know how nasty these people can become. Let's play cut 86.
It's ridiculous. It is the day after Trans Day of Visibility. We have had dozens of trans people die this year because of the hate and lies that you are spreading. And if we want an internet, if we go to the internet with free speech for everyone or just the privileged few, are you going to stand up for the lives of trans people, black and brown people? Are we fighting for justice or are we fighting for big tech? I thought we were fighting for justice here.
That his penis isn't going to be in my bathroom. So,
right on.
1 minute, Megyn, please react to that.
She's 100% right. And that man just wants attention. And what he really wants is to have access to my private spaces and Nancy Mace's private spaces. And it's a no, sir. There's a place for you. It's called the men's room. And frankly, a shrink's office. That's where you belong. You're obviously not well. It's Trans Day of Remembrance. And then the next day is the Trans Day of Visibility. And then the next day is the Trans Day of, who gives, I'm done with your trans days. This is not something to be celebrated the same way we wouldn't celebrate somebody with anorexia or schizophrenia. This is a disorder. These people are not well. They need help and they need our empathy over what they're obviously going through, but they are not entitled to our participation in their delusions. And they were certainly not entitled to our participation in their sexual fetish. And I'm sick and tired of these men who throw on a woman's wig or a woman's dress and then want to lecture women about what bigots and bullies we are.
Megyn, I don't want to use our valuable time here, but I just found a list, for example. There is Aromatic Spectrum Awareness Week, Bisexual Health Awareness Month, Zero Discrimination Day, International Transgender Day of Visibility. We have assembled well over 85 different days that the kind of trans thing, I'm not kidding, it's unbelievable, actually. And so I don't want to spend too much time on that. But it's just the one question I do have, which I think is important, is at what point will Democrat women say enough? Is that ever going to happen?
No, it's not. I mean, I'll give you one example. Katie Couric, who for some reason has decided to eschew makeup, which is not a good idea, is out there like, it's just so mean. And by the way, if you're going to get rid of the makeup and also the hair, the idea is not to then take your phone, hold it right here and do little videos. No one wants to see that, especially for women of a certain age, which I am one of them, so I'm allowed to say it. Secondly, she's out there. She's such a bully. This is just mean what Nancy Mace is doing. She still doesn't get it. She's got 2 daughters and she still doesn't get it because her whole life is surrounded in leftists who think like she does and who give, kudos and props to women who say Nancy Mace is a bully and that you're a bully too if you don't support the trans community. This is the same Katie Couric who told Bill Maher a few months ago that Trump voters are anti-intellectual, and now post his victory is out there saying, I really just think these Democrats, they're just too elitist and they're just too insulting. Hello, preacher, heal thyself first. So this is the circle that she runs in, and she's not alone. Most of these Democrats have been told for years now that you're mean if you don't allow these men posing as women into your bathroom. Look at that guy on CNN who went off on Shermichael Singleton, who was he's a more moderate conservative who was trying to say boys shouldn't be in girls' sports, right? And that guy went off on him saying, we are not going to be transphobic at this table. We are not going. What did he do? He said, these are biological boys. He wouldn't refer to them as trans girls. Neither will I. Neither should anyone. There's no such thing as a trans girl or a trans woman. There are only girls and women, and they require no setup. You don't have to say biological. You don't have to say real. We're certainly not saying cis. If I say girl or woman, you know exactly what it means. And that's how the language must be treated in general. Because take a look at this bathroom situation on Capitol Hill. How do we say she cannot come into the women's bathrooms? She cannot come into the women's locker rooms. You've already lost the fight if you cede the language battle, which is what that guy on CNN was trying to make happen, what Katie Couric wants to see happen. And until the rest of us all stand up and say no, we'll continue losing. Right now, we won. We won. This was the number one issue, according to a Democrat survey of swing state voters in the swing states. In just the swing states alone, this was the number one issue, the trans issue. And so it's great. If the Democrats don't want to come on board, fine. Keep losing. Either way, we win. We either win because you bent the knee, as you should, or we win because you won't, and you go down and we continue winning and you continue losing. Take your pick.
I want to play the AOC clip, who I have a prediction. She's going to try to make a run for the presidency in 2028. I know people think that's a little outrageous, but we'll see. Let's play cut 91.
What Nancy Mace and what Speaker Johnson are doing are endangering all women and girls. Because if you ask them, what is your plan on how to enforce this? They won't come up with an answer. And what it inevitably results in are women and girls who are primed for assault because people are going to want to check their private parts in suspecting who is trans and who is cis and who's doing what. And so the idea that Nancy Mace wants little girls and women to drop trow in front of who? An investigator who would that be in order because she wants to suspect and point fingers at who she thinks is trans is disgusting. It is disgusting.
Okay, and I know this is so silly. However, Megyn, I think it's helpful to our audience for you to address this very weak objection head on, because it is something that is commonly said by the purple-haired jihadis.
Yeah, well, let me put it in terms that she can understand, Sandy. This is muy estúpido. This is a very dumb point. It's a lie. It's a straw man. And what she may not be aware is she's repeating like a weird piece of trans porn, because in these trans forums online, this is a thing that some of these guys who are autogynephiles, who get off on picturing themselves as women, like to fantasize about. They love to picture themselves getting their genitals inspected before they go into the women's room, like a real woman who's been Me Too'd, who has to pick up her skirt and show her Let me tell you something, that there is a very tiny percentage of the population that actually has gender dysphoria. They tend to be more effeminate men who their whole lives have been more effeminate and who genuinely feel like they were born in the wrong body. The last thing they would ever want or get off on is the idea of somebody looking at their male bodies underneath a skirt. They want to hide that. They are not like Leah Thomas, who as a man who was Will 2 months earlier, now he's Leah trying to swim against Riley Gaines, parades through the women's locker room with his full Johnson exposed. That's not what an actual gender dysphoric person would ever want. So in these weird chat rooms, they get off on the thought of somebody actually giving them the inspection because they're autogynephiles. And AOC, who knows nothing about anything, decides to repeat this weird, sick fantasy as something that's going to happen in order to try to take the moral high ground of it will in fact happen, and little girls and women are now going to be subjected to strip searches before they use the ladies' room on Capitol Hill. Utter lie, stupid lie, and I'd love to know what chat room she's been in.
So speaking of people who go in places where they don't belong, Mika and Joe went to Mar-a-Lago recently. We have your very viral take. Let's play cut 84.
Have with all presidents.
Don't be mistaken. We're not here to defend or normalize Donald Trump. We're here to report on him.
I searched for a way to respond appropriately, and I called on my 10 years as a litigator in addition to my now 20 as a journalist, and I think I found the perfect phrase: go yourselves. Go yourselves, you dishonest jokes of faux journalists.
Megyn, please elaborate.
I love how desperate they are to retain any connection to power. And look, I think I understand why Trump had them come there, allowed it. I think number one, Trump likes to be covered in the news. He always has. That's how he rose to fame. So if he can get good coverage out of these two, fine. What does it cost him to sit with them for an hour? Number two, I think he enjoyed seeing them, brought to heel. And that's the piece of it I kind of enjoyed too. Like, why shouldn't they slither into Mar-a-Lago and beg him for attention after all they've done to him? It's humiliating what they did. They humiliated themselves. However, literally nobody wanted to see this reunion, this come to Jesus. Nobody, not any Republican. I mean, I didn't want to see this. I don't want to see them make up. I don't want to see them get forgiveness from Trump. And I hope he didn't give it. They don't deserve it. I mean, it's not just fascist and Hitler. As I said before, he's a rapist. That's what they've been saying about Trump, that he's a rapist and a racist and a bigot and a misogynist who's getting women killed and will continue. That's what Morning Joe, I am in the media. I follow this very closely. That's what they've been saying about him. So why should they get an audience with him? And why should they ever get his forgiveness or a relationship with him? So that's number one. But number two, it's been hilarious to watch their ratings go even further down the bowl. They suffered more than a 20% drop off just from Monday to Tuesday. People were so angry that they did this on the left who watched that show, hard left. They don't want to see them make up with Trump. The reason they do it is this. They desperately need ratings and they desperately need access to power. He loved that Joe Biden watched his show. That's why he went out there in March, just a few months before the June debate, and said, best Joe Biden ever, ever. He's better than ever. And he's doing somersaults backstage. You just can't see it when he stumbles out on stage. And then the debate happened, and the next day he had to admit, okay, maybe he needs to step down. Then after a week of pressure, he reversed himself again. Well, maybe he can do it. People are being too hard on him. The man's like Sybil, that crazy multiple personality character played by Sally Field in the 60s. He's just wherever the wind blows. Then Kamala comes on board. She's the greatest thing ever. Her messaging is right on. The Democrats are the only ones speaking sense. Then she gets crushed by Trump, comes out the next day. I've been trying to tell everybody the trans thing is a loser. I've been saying it on this show for years. Why does he'll say anything to try to look like he's in control and in power and with the right messaging. And that will include going to Mar-a-Lago and humiliating himself. It's like what people used to do to their dogs when they would soil the carpet, and they'd take the back of their head and make them bury their nose in the crap so that they wouldn't do it again. That's what he just did to himself at Mar-a-Lago. And it's somewhat amusing to watch, but it's also so pathetic.
It is. And it's just, what do you think President Trump made the right move to welcome them in? I can kind of see it. It's like, I won, you guys lost, come to my home. About a minute remaining. What is your take on that, Megyn?
No, I wish he hadn't done it. It just makes them be able to go out there now and suggest they've got insider information on Trump. It almost lends credibility to their opinions on Trump, like they might have inside info, which almost certainly they will not. And it's going to go south again. You know, maybe Trump likes that, having them as a foil, and he likes the storyline of up again, down again. But me personally, I wish he had not taken the call, and I wish he had relegated them to the basement with their ratings, where they will sit for quite some time now.
Megyn Kelly continues with us. Email us freedom@charliekirk.com. That is freedom@charliekirk.com. So, Megyn, I now want your reaction to some of these accusations being thrown at my friend, Pete Hegseth. And I'm sure that you've, I don't know if you've gotten along with him or not in the past, but I mean, he has a great reputation among many people. What do you make of this smear campaign against Pete Hegseth?
Yeah, no, I knew Pete well when I was at Fox. I'm the reason he became a Fox News contributor. He was coming on for free, and my executive producer and I went to Roger and we said, you've got to hire this guy. He's incredible. And he did get hired. So I loved Pete and I thought he was great. I don't recommend marrying Pete Hegseth. I'm going to be honest. Like, looking at his marital history, it's not an example of fidelity. Okay, so I'm just going to be honest and admit that up front. However, having difficulty in one's personal relationships, especially after having served 2 tours, which it's not uncommon for these combat vets to come back and not be able to navigate their love lives all that well, is much different than being a rapist. And this woman's story smells terribly. Now, I went through that police report line by line. I mean, I've got it right here in front of me, Charlie. It's like, you can see the amount of time I spent with this thing, with the tabs and the highlighting. And you know, your audience may know I practiced law for 10 years, was a litigator, was a trial lawyer. This woman's story smells. And if you read the media coverage about this allegation, let me tell you, you will not learn the facts that I'm about to give you. You will learn that they were together at some conference in Monterey back in 2017, October, and that she's alleging that he may have given her a date rape drug and raped her, and that he's alleging it was a consensual affair. And that later, a few years later, he paid her off to stay silent when she began to rattle his cage about a possible lawsuit against him. What you will see in this police report is that she was at a bar with him after the event. Her husband and children were down the hotel room hall. They were there too. She was with her husband and children, 2 of them. And she was at this bar with Pete after the event at which he spoke. She was part of the Republican Women's Conference. That others said she was flirting with him. She was touching his leg, etc., flirting with him. That he seemed to be more focused on a different woman, not this one. That Pete would later tell the police he never even had it as a thought in his mind that he would hook up with this woman, who apparently he didn't have any interest in. But then this woman escorted him out of the bar and was going back to his hotel room with him. And at 1:30 in the morning, she was seen on videotape, which the police reviewed and reported the following facts about. She was fine. She wasn't stumbling. He looked drunk. And security had been called on him because they had some sort of a fight at 1:30 in the morning out by the pool that led two hotel guests to call and say, could you quiet them down? Now, first of all, that's totally inappropriate. She told cops they were arguing over his treatment of women. What? You're supposed to be his handler for the conference and you're getting into a personal argument with him over his treatment of women? So loud and belligerent that hotel guests are calling security? You crossed a line. You're behaving inappropriately, madam. She says, and so do the other guests that saw her in the bar beforehand, that she had one drink, one champagne. The police say, and an eyewitness who saw her in the bar, two eyewitnesses who saw her in the bar, and the hotel security guy who came to tell them to be quiet by the pool, all say she was fine. She wasn't intoxicated. She wasn't stumbling. She wasn't slurring. Pete was drunk. She was fine. The videotape then shows them leaving the pool and going back to his hotel. And it shows them approaching the pool from 1:15 a.m. to 1:30 a.m. Their arms are locked, like a boyfriend and girlfriend might be. She's smiling. She does not appear drunk. So as a 1:15 and then 1:30, she's locking arms with him. She's smiling. She does not appear drunk to four witnesses who lay eyes on her, either in person or via videotape, including the police. She goes back to his hotel room sometime between 1:30 and 2 a.m. She is texting her husband during this time. Mm-hmm. She sounds totally fine in these texts. She does not sound like she is intoxicated or out of her mind at all. And then the texts shut down and she has an unaccounted for period from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. The husband calls her twice during that time period. The husband gets out of bed to go check the hotel bar, looking for his wife, wondering where the hell she is. There's no one in the bar called Knuckles in the Hyatt Regency. He goes back home to the room. At 3:40, he tries her again. He says she arrives back home to the hotel room at 4 a.m. She's fine. She's not stumbling. She's not slurring. When was she drugged? When was she drugged? Did Pete get her back to the hotel room, slip her a Mickey at 2 a.m., take advantage of her, and then at 4 a.m., got her back to her hotel room totally fine? Because the witnesses before and after the time frame say she was fine.
Gotta run.
A coworker the next day said she wasn't hungover.
What a great summary. Megyn, thank you so much. Another smear campaign. I think this one smells to high heaven. It's a Kavanaugh 2.0. Megyn, God bless you. Thank you.